Hello, this is Michael Paul with New Orleans Scottish Rite College. Over the last few years, I've heard opinions from Masons on blanket time limits for educational talks. I've heard that those attending such talks have a time limit of at most between 5 or 10 or maybe even 15 minutes before interest is lost. I've also read a few studies that seem to support such opinions. A few times, I've even been invited to speak somewhere, and the worshipful master will ask me in advance to keep the talk down to about 10 minutes, at the longest. I've even heard loud talk around me, suggesting that everyone knows that a speaker loses his audience after about 10 minutes. The suggestion is that this time limit idea for lectures is a hard and fast rule for any Masonic lecture. If any talk goes beyond 10 or 15 minutes, then the thought is that it is not an appreciated or valued talk. Masons will lose interest. It becomes an unwanted intrusion rather than a help. I've done a good bit of thinking on this idea of lecture lengths, and I like to throw around a few ideas out there for consideration. I remember my school days. High school was far different than college. I had no choice but to sit in my high school class and listen to whatever lecture was being presented. I hated most all of it. Many times it did not take 5 or 10 minutes for me to lose attention. I could be off somewhere in space after only a minute or two. So very many times I had little to no interest in what was being presented. I simply had to sit there and go through it if I wanted to pass the class and not have to repeat the torture. While college did offer me more freedom, and it was not required by law that I attend, I simply felt the same trapped feeling if an instructor droned on about some subject that held little to no interest at all for me. Not every instructor was an interesting speaker, and not every class that I was required to take for my major was of great interest to me. So, if the speaking skill of the instructor was limited, or if the subject was of little interest to me, then I can very well see this 5 or 10 minute rule as valid. But what about comedy? I could sit and listen to a good stand-up comedian for an hour and a half and not once lose interest. I would laugh my head off the whole time. I would be giving them my full attention, and when it was over, I often wished it would go on for longer. Under these conditions, this attention span time limit is nonsense. A good movie or TV show could also hold my full attention for far longer than 5 or 10 minutes. But let's go back to college. I do remember one instructor who was outstanding. I had been advised to take his class, as I was told that I would enjoy every minute of it. They were right. He was a history professor, and he truly made history come to life for me. The fact is, I enjoyed history, and his manner and style of speaking not only held my attention, but made his lectures a truly enjoyable event. But then again, others have no interest in history and find it tiresome to listen to lectures about it. See where this is going? This attention span theory of 5 to 10 minutes seems to be sound if you have little to no interest in the subject, or if the instructor or speaker is of limited ability. Humans love entertainment. In the Middle Ages, a good storyteller was always in high demand, and crowds would listen to them all day if allowed. If a speaker entertains you by his manner and style of speech, or by speaking on a subject that is of particular interest to you, then this 5 or 10 minute rule flies out the window. We can listen all day to something or someone that is of interest to us. So how does all of this apply to Freemasonry? Well, without trying to offend anyone, some Masons seek only fellowship, a hot meal, and the opportunity to add titles to their name. They have no real interest in learning any of the deeper aspects of Freemasonry, and that's fine. Their interest in Freemasonry lies elsewhere. A lecture on any of the deeper aspects of Masonic philosophy or symbolism is of no real interest to them. After 5 or 10 minutes listening to anyone speak on the symbolism of Freemasonry, they might well be twisting in their chairs looking for a way to get out. On the other hand, others listening to the same lecture may be fixed on every word of the speaker totally captivated by the subject. It all depends on our interest. It also depends on the complexity of the subject. So what do? How do we satisfy the hunger for some while not boring others to tears? Is there a middle ground? I believe that several factors need to come into play or be put into play. The first is that we need to be completely honest and open with ourselves. If we have a desire to learn more about Freemasonry, we can't let anything stop us. If we have no desire to learn anything more about Freemasonry, we can't allow ourselves to be pushed into it. But in neither case can we push our wants or needs on anyone else. We must follow our own paths without expecting anyone else to join us. We need to find and live the style of Masonry that interests us and not allow peer pressure to influence us. If you seek Masonic education, then go out and find it. It is possible. If your lodge or vocal members of your lodge will not tolerate Masonic lectures of substance, then you can find them in books or online videos. If you only attend lodge for the social aspects, then don't go on nights that have educational programs that may hold no interest for you. If you do go, have the politeness to not show your displeasure and make the evening unpleasant for those who do find value in such an event. In either case, don't insult or be a pain to those who don't share your opinion or view of Freemasonry. If an event, or even if your lodge, no longer suits you, find another. Don't fall for the nonsense that you owe loyalty to something that is not going in the direction where you want to go. We should wish everyone well, but we should always follow our own paths. But on a technical point, it is very possible that there is value in a 5 or 10-minute talk. Let's say that a lodge has a very full business meeting where some issues simply cannot be handled before or after the lodge meeting. Let's say that you only have a few extra minutes and you would like to use them on some aspect of education. It's very possible to give a useful and interesting talk in that amount of time. Not every useful Masonic talk has to be complex and lengthy. For example, if you select one working tool and talk on only one aspect of the symbolism of it, then this is something that can be done within those time limits. This is not the same as cutting short a Masonic lecture because of lack of interest in the subject. It is planning a short talk due to a full agenda. There is a time and a place for everything. So it seems like with everything else, balance comes into place. There is value and use for a short talk on Freemasonry, just as there is value on a more lengthy talk. It doesn't have to be an excuse for not desiring Masonic education. It all depends on what we want out of Freemasonry. I believe that by sincere members working together, we can find an acceptable middle ground for everyone. Thank you for watching. If you like the videos, please hit the like button and subscribe to us. Please also support our work through Patreon. Just follow the link in the video description. It is appreciated. See you next time.